What about the Object 195? This vehicle was leaked last week with one of the major leaks that we had, even though Gaijin just denied that they are planning to add 5th generation jets to this year. It still is not denying that they are working on these vehicles that were leaked. They just didn't say anything about that, right? So we must assume that they are working on these vehicles. And the last vehicle that I wanted to do a what should you expect video about is the Object 195. It is one of the most absurd tanks designs ever made, and it was basically an Armata done in the late 80s and early 90s, right? Of course, eventually it didn't saw service, but it was what the Armata kind of became afterwards, right? The next generation of Russian MBTs, which is kind of crazy. Let's talk a little bit about it. So at first, let's talk about the most fun part, the gun, guys, the weapons in general, right? So for its primary gun, it has a 152mm 2A 83 smoothbore gun. This is an incredible gun. Most sources claim that it has, of course, APFSDS, a heat, even some artillery shells could be added here, and in theory, guided weaponry, and of course, they were theorizing that maybe a 1 kiloton nuke could actually be added to this gun. So it's an incredible gun. It really is. On the APFSDS, it can penetrate around 1,000 millimeters at 2 kilometers, which is crazy. And then 1,500 millimeters at 2 kilometers with heat. Of course, the kilometers doesn't matter with heat, but still, you get the point, right? It's just an amazing, amazing gun. 152mm. I couldn't find what is the reload rate of this thing, but most sources claim that it would be around 5 to 6 seconds on the most optimal condition on a test, and then a normal figure would be more or less 11 seconds. I don't know if this is considering like changing ammo types or anything like that. I don't know. So it's difficult to say what will be the actual figure of a reload rate for this gun, but it would be probably larger than just 5 seconds, I would assume. If not, Jesus Christ, Russians, what are you doing with this gun being reloaded in 5 seconds? But yeah, this is the main gun, an incredible round that will destroy everything that it's in the game right now. Of course, for secondary, we have a 30mm 2A42, so yeah, coaxial 30mm, which is pretty interesting for, you know, infantry, low-flying aircraft, stuff like that. Also, a machine gun, a 50 cal cord gun, you know. And of course, it would have smoke grenades as well. So these are the main things that it can throw at enemies, more or less. But yeah, for the defense systems, we have some very interesting things. We have mainly here the holy trinity of defense systems. So we have a pretty good composite, pretty good ERA, and it has a hard kill APS. So it has a composite that they say it's around 950 millimeters of protection against AP and 1,500 against heat. So very good. This is probably for the hull, since the turret is unmanned, okay? And the autoloaders, everything's protected back there, you know, and it has blowout panels, all of that, you know, unmanned turret, like I said. So the isolated ammo carousel below the turret. So everything is to be able to protect the crew as much as possible. It has ERA, of course, Contact 5 initially, but they were testing with Relicate initially. So if this thing saw service, you would probably see some form of Relicate as well. And it has the hard kill standard active protection system. So it has a radar basically that can intercept kinetic, tandem charge, whatever, you know. So it is very well protected, and it would be very hard to penetrate this, especially on the hull. And it would still be able to protect itself with the APS and ERA, right? So it's a very good tank on the regards of protection as well. Then probably what is the most interesting for me personally, the sensors and fire control system. So of course it has laser warning receivers. I forgot to mention that it has NBC protection, of course, and stuff like that. But also it has a sensor fusion kind of situation over here. So it has a whole bunch of sensors, multi-spectral sensors, including optical thermal imaging systems, you know, laser rangefinders, stuff like that. So normal stuff that you would have in a modern tank. But also, it has a radar on the gun. So it's kind of weird, but yeah. And also, it has a digital fire control system with data integration. What that means is that with the data link that we have here, is that it can combine every single sensor that we talk about. So the electro-optical systems, you know, the thermal imaging, laser rangefinders, laser warning receivers, the radar on the gun as well, to basically track targets and automatically aim the weapon. So this would be probably the most OP thing ever if it's added in the game. But basically, it would detect where the target is, and it would auto-aim. It's basically an aimbot, right, for the gunner. The gunner would just have to confirm the fire and just shoot, basically, right? But everything else in the auto modes, you know, it would be basically done by the tank itself. So, yeah, it's basically an aimbot for the tank, which is pretty crazy. Even the radar on the gun that it has, on the gun sight and stuff, it can actually, with the sensor fusion and aiming automation, it can identify if it's a, you know, friendly or a foe, and it can also use that to fire through smoke in theory. So it would basically have a smoke screen on top of the in front of the tank. It would automatic, even not seeing anything with the thermal imaging and stuff, use the radar to actually aim where the target is through the smoke, killing the target, right? So it's a pretty incredible fire control system that this thing has, apparently, right? Automation, as always, Russians love automation on their tanks, on their submarines, on their a lot of stuff, right? Even their aircraft and stuff, they love automation just since the 50s, right? So it makes sense that they have all of these systems. I know it's not only the Russians that have these, but it's a pretty interesting thing to have in the game and talk about of how OP this thing would be if it's added, right? This type of sensor integration and auto-aim that the thing has, right? So pretty crazy. And last but not least, let's talk about the mobility and the engine that he has. So he has an A85 engine, which is a 12-cylinder turbocharged diesel engine. They say it has around 1,500 to 1,650 horsepower. So it's a very good, you know, power. And he has around 65 to 60 tons, 55 to 60 tons, sorry. Which means that he has around 25 to 30 horsepower per ton, which is around the same as the KF that we talked about, and a little bit more maybe than a Leopard 2A7, for example, something like that. So, yeah, it's pretty mobile. We will be around the top ranks that we have. It has, of course, 75 kilometers per hour forward. Reverse, I couldn't find it if it has the bad reverse. I would assume that it doesn't because it has a completely different engine. But still, maybe it has a very bad reverse speed as well. It has, of course, active hydropneumatic suspension. And yeah, basically that's it, right? The transmission is automatic, of course. And yeah, it's basically this is the tank. So it is a tank that will be like it's futuristic, I would say, right? It's complicated, guys. Should this tank be added? I don't know. Like, do the Russians need another tank like this? Probably not. But at the same time, if they want to do the step up, you know, having prototypes and stuff like that being added as the top ranks of the game, yeah, then yeah. If the KF is added, if the Americans get another thing, I don't know, like, there's nothing else to be added out there. That's the problem, right? So this tank is amazing. I would love to see this thing, but it needs counters, right? This gun, this armor, this system, it's complicated, man. You need something like the KF, the Panther, right, to be able to have a counter to it, because if not, this thing will dominate and it's going to destroy everything, according to these stats. Of course, real life stuff is different from stats, but this is a game, so it's complicated, right? So it's problematic. It really is problematic. Remember, this also has the normal 3 crew that I forgot to mention. But yeah, guys, a pretty interesting tank that for sure I want to be added in the game, but at the same time, I'm scared of what it will actually do against the enemy if it doesn't have counters. So you tell me in the comments if you like this thing or not. I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and bye guys, see ya.